Hey guys, happy Thursday. It's time for last call over here on WagerTalk. I'm Jo Madden, and we've got a loaded show for you today. It's Thursday, which means Thursday night football, and that's what this show is all about. We're going to be breaking down your sides, your totals, and of course, those player props that you want to get your best bets in on. Now, I will have Adam Trigger stepping up, and then Carmine Bianco. We're going to go over all of those with them. I want to let you guys know to check out the Odds Logic page. Get that open. Make sure you're getting the best of those lines because we are seeing lines moving. And drop those comments, those questions in the chat. We're going to try to get to all of your questions, all of your comments out there. So let's look at the lines and where they're sitting right now. Looking at these lines, the Washington Commanders, they are sitting at some books as a 3-point underdog. We did see them as a 3.5, and it's a big change here from the 3 to the 3.5, getting off of that key number. We're seeing threes juiced as well for the Green Bay Packers, minus 120 mark for the Green Bay Packers, laying the 3 now on that total opening at 48.5. We're seeing a 49 still at BetMGM, 48.5. So at FanDuel, and this number has really fluctuated during the day from that 48.5 to the 49, and now those books starting to come down as money is moving in on that under. We know this is a great quarterback matchup. We have Jordan Love, Jaden Daniels. We're going to see what they can bring in this matchup today. But let's bring in Adam Trigger first. Adam Trigger's gone 5-0 so far in the NFL, up 17 units. Adam, welcome to the show.
Glad to be back, Jo. I didn't know we'd get to do this again the second time this week, but Monday went well, so we got to try to run it back tonight.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this Thursday night football game. Hopefully it's just as exciting as that Monday night game. Now, both of these teams coming in here off wins in week 1. When we look at the side here of this game, moving off that 3.5, is that changing how you're going to bet this game?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly needs to be considered. This won't be a client play for me. I do have more of an opinion on the side here than I did on Monday, and I did look for a prop, and I really couldn't find one. So I'm going to leave the props to Carmine, who's coming up in a little bit. But if I was going to bet this game, I'd have to take the points. Obviously, 3.5 is better than 3. Right now, you're probably going to see 3s at most books. I do think if there's a book that either doesn't charge you much for the half point or the juice is reasonable, like it's like a 3.5 minus 120, that's obviously a much stronger play, in my opinion. But you don't want to go crazy paying like extreme juice for the 3.5 because long term, I don't think that's the right move. The reason I like Washington here, and again, this is week 2, so we always talk about like overreactions, and I'm trying not to overreact to what I saw week 1 as well. But one of my takeaways was, man, the Lions, are they just like bad? And the reason I bring that up is the Packers absolutely torched them. I had no action in the game. It was a game I really just kind of, had on, as kind of like the second screen. Every time I looked over, the Packers were doing something. It felt like the Lions did nothing in that game. And then you kind of go to Monday night, Ben Johnson and the Bears start to move the ball, and you have to ask yourself, like, did he matter that much? And is Detroit just not going to be as good this year? The reason that I'm talking about that now is I think it's possible the Commanders are a better team than what the Packers faced last week. And if that's the case, then I definitely think at 3 or 3.5, you have to like the value on the underdog. So again, not the strongest, and that these primetime games, Jo, can be tough like that. So not the strongest of the week 2 games for me, but I would play the Commanders if I was going to get involved here.
I love where you're going with that because I think you're dead on the money with all of your comments there. Looking at the Commanders, they did face the Giants, and we know Russ just had those struggles, but their defense came out nice and strong. Dan Quinn really getting his defensive mindset going in that game. And you're right, the Lions without Ben Johnson, you've got to wonder what that offense, all of those struggles they had. So would you take a shot here on the Commanders straight up on the money line? It's coming in at plus 148, Adam.
Yeah, again, I don't mind anything like Commanders sort of correlated. I think, if you obviously shop around, money line is going to have value, like relative to like where this game is being priced. My whole sort of the way I'm going to look at this game is the Packers being a little bit overvalued off the week 1 performance. So even though I'm not long-term high on the Commanders this year, and they're a team that I may look to play against at some point, there's no question the value is with the Commanders here. And so you either take the money line value or take the 3.5. But I just don't know that this is the spot or price point that I'd want to lay, with the Packers.
Okay, so we're looking at the Packers. We're looking at their offensive line. We know those injuries that happened in week 1. We had both Toms and Banks have those injuries. It does look like both of them probably will be playing tonight, still listed as questionable. Do you think we're going to see that defense be able to get to Jordan Love of the Washington Commanders?
Yeah, I like the Washington defense. So, that was another thing that it was I would say was very disappointing from the Lions perspective last week was I thought their defense was going to fare much better. And I think the Commanders, again, the way I'm looking at this game is really like the Commanders. I think you have the book sort of thinking that the Lions and the Commanders are equal. And I think the Commanders could be a step up here in competition from what the Packers faced last week. So I think you could have I think you could have a better defense with the Commanders. And if that's the case, the value has to be on the Commanders side. Just because you have that Packers performance from week 1 being baked in. And I think it's inflated the line a little bit.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. What do you say to people that throw those trends at you? Because we look at Matt LaFleur in primetime against the spread. He's being able to go 21, 11, and 1 in his career in primetime against the spread. Is that something when you first looked at this game that you even bring into your mindset?
I got to be honest, I'm not a huge trends guy, and I'll say what I say all the time with the NFL. It's one of the hardest markets to beat. Most of my volume, if you're unfamiliar with me, most of my volume comes from baseball. And so I'm going to be super selective with where I pick my spots in the NFL. I ultimately think that you're going to find better edges and the NFL is going to be more beatable probably from a prop scenario. So not so much as on Monday night where I had no opinion on the side, but there are most of these NFL games, Joe, I really truly believe that you can make a pretty good case for both sides. Here, I would argue pretty, I think I have a good argument that at least the value is with the Commanders and that I think you'd be taking inflated or bad numbers with the Packers. But NFL, it's one of the toughest markets to beat. And the side is probably the toughest of all of them.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm with you. I'm loving the Washington Commanders as well. I think you're hitting straight on the money there. What do you expect out of Jaden Daniels and this offense? Because I know you're a believer in the defense. What kind of style of game do you think they're going to play tonight?
I love the offense. They have a great offensive line. I think you might see them run it a little bit more and have success running it. I don't know that it's going to be like all Daniels, but again, you saw last week, the Packers pass rush teed off on Goff and really disrupted that game. And that's where I don't think they're going to have as much success here. So it's you look at last week, all the success the Packers had. I just think it sets the bar very high for the Packers to be able to replicate that. And I think that you're paying for that in the number, which is why, even though I don't feel like my handicap is so strong with the Commanders that I want to put, my or my client's money on it, there's no question where that's where the value is. And so that's where I would push you if you're going to bet this game.
Absolutely. Okay, let's look at the total here. We've got a total that has been jumping around today. It opened at 48.5. We're seeing most of the books posting that 48.5 number again, even though it did pop all the way up to 49. Adam, we've got 2 gunslingers as quarterbacks out there, but do you expect this one to go over that total?
I think I maybe slightly lean toward the over just because I don't know that you're going to have such a wipeout performance from the Packers defense here. So I guess I maybe agree with the move up, but again, that's just not something I have a really strong opinion on. I'll leave the total for Carmine. I think Carmine's props and he's going to have probably a better read on the total than me.
Okay. I love where you're going with passing it off to Carmine. What about any players that you have circled tonight, Adam?
I think I like Deebo Samuel. Joe, I can't stand fantasy football, but I always get roped into one league with some of my friends. And so Deebo is on my team, and I'm going to throw him in my lineup. So maybe I'm a little bit biased there, but he was such a weapon at San Francisco, and you have to think that this Washington team can utilize him in a number of different ways. Thought he played great last week, and I think I'd ride him again. So maybe, I don't know, an anytime TD, or, I haven't really looked through the Deebo Samuel's prop prices yet, but I wouldn't mind something that's Samuel's correlated and just pick the best price, whatever that one is.
Yeah, I agree with you. Samuel's coming in here with a reception prop sitting right around that 54.5, you guys, on most books. And we saw what he was able to do last week: 10 targets, 7 receptions, 77 yards, and then 19 rushing yards. And that's where he got the touchdown. So he had a solid week. I'm excited for this one. I'm expecting both of these quarterbacks, both of the offenses, to be able to get some momentum out there. But I do think those defenses are going to really come to play. Adam, you've been absolutely crushing it in the NFL. You are 5-0, up 17 units. What have you got for sale over at WagerTalk?
Yeah, so I have a 5%er in NFL. It's part of week 2, obviously not tonight's game. But yeah, the preseason was incredible. 4-0 in the preseason. I had one play last week. It was Browns plus 5.5. Felt like it was a easy win that should have been easier. Didn't think I was going to have to sweat that last possession there, but it gets there. And I've got one I really like this week for the NFL. I'll throw one thing out for the viewers here that might be actionable. College football tomorrow night, Joe. Colgate plays Syracuse. So that's obviously in my backyard here in central New York. It's a very big spread. I'm hoping it gets bigger. One thing I'll tell you guys is Colgate, right now they're a 37.5-point underdog, and Syracuse may take money, which was what we want because we'd like to play back at that again at some point. New coach for Colgate. He won a national championship with one of our local D3 schools here in central New York, Cortland, a couple of years ago. Much better coach, and the program's already moving in the right direction for Colgate. So it's just a much better team than they've had the last couple of years. Already been competitive with Monmouth and Villanova. Syracuse, they've just played UConn. They just played Tennessee. They have Clemson next week. It is very much going to be like a go through the motions type week for them. I just don't have any faith in them winning that game by 40. And right now the spread is 37.5. So I'm going to wait and hope that people bet Syracuse, because why wouldn't they? It's Syracuse Colgate. I don't think many people are out there trying to bet Colgate. It was 2-10 last year and has been terrible for a decade, but I want to bet Colgate. And so I'm going to wait for that. I do have a college football play up on my page for Friday in one of the bigger games. So that's another thing I have for sale. But one of the things I'm looking at for tomorrow is Colgate. I'm hoping it gets to 39 or 40, and I'll likely add that to my card.
Yeah, I love that advice to wait on that number, especially when you're liking the dog in that situation, because I think a lot of people are going to look back and look at Ohio State, how they won 70-0 last weekend. They're going to look at those favorites that covered those large spreads, Adam. So I love where you're going there. Best of luck tonight in the Thursday night football game. And I hope to see you again here on Last Call.
Yeah, I'm always down to come on and chat. If you guys are into baseball, we do an hour show every day. 9 a.m. Eastern right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Myself, Tokyo Brandon, Brian Leonard. So we'll be back 9 a.m. for Total Bases. Hope to see you guys there.
Thanks, Adam. Okay, you guys, I see all of you jumping into those comments there. We've got a couple of new members as well over on YouTube. So thanks, you guys, for becoming members. I want to throw some trends at you here. If you like the trends, if you don't, let me know what you're thinking on those. We'll bring Carmine Bianco in just a couple of minutes. So NFL trends to look at for this Thursday night football game tonight. The Commanders have allowed that first touchdown in their last 10 games versus the NFC North opponent. So if you're looking for a first touchdown scorer, that would lean you over to the Green Bay Packers to score first. We've also seen the Commanders lose their last 4 first quarters out there on the road. So a nice live betting situation if they do go down and you're expecting this team to be able to keep it tight. You're going to then get the Commanders at a much better number than the 3 that is out there right now. The Packers have won the first half as well as a favorite in their last 7 games versus the NFC East. So another reason to look at that first quarter with the Packers. And the Packers have won their last 6 home games versus the Commanders. So that's an interesting one, you guys, looking at that. I believe it was in 1988, the last time the Commanders won on the road versus the Packers. So it has been a lifetime since they've been able to do. When we look at the player prop trend that is out there right now, we know Josh Jacobs is going for touchdown, consecutive touchdowns, going for his 10th consecutive game touchdown. The books want you to lay way too much juice, but Terry McLaurin has come in and he scored at least one touchdown in 9 of the Commanders' last 10 road games. So he's the favorite to get the touchdown today. He's coming in at plus 155. I see you guys throwing out Josh Jacobs for that anytime touchdown. Again, it is almost minus 200, minus 170. It's floating around. You could look at parlaying that. You could also look at 2+ touchdowns, but I'm not sure if we're going to get that many touchdowns out of him in this one. But let's bring a Carmine Bianco in. He's going to talk some props with us. Carmine, happy Thursday.
Joe, how you doing? Yeah, happy Thursday. What a week 1 of NFL. I'm just glad it's back. I'm glad football's back. I'm glad college is back. We saw some absolutely fantastic games. Bills Mafia, for me, I'm a huge Bills fan. Pretty much thought that game was done and dusted. But Josh Allen, as long as you got Josh Allen and you have Harbaugh on the other side, blowing another double-digit lead, you've always got a chance, Joe. You've always got a chance.
Superman. Carmine, he really is Superman out there on the field.
Yeah, he is. He's unbelievable. You got to give kudos to both teams. You can make a case. You can make a very strong case. The Baltimore should have won that game. Probably should have gone for it on 4th and 2. Take the ball out of Josh's hands and don't give him a chance to beat you. But game 1 of the season, Harbaugh did it. He thought his defense could hold. And we saw that Ravens defense, a little shaky, that Ravens defense. And it's kind of scary for Survivor players because they are going to be all over Baltimore this weekend. And the Browns could pull the shocker. But we'll talk about that later. If we have if we have time.
Absolutely.
I want to talk a couple props. So
Okay.
we're going to talk QBs. We're going to talk QBs, Joe. I want to talk about Daniels first, Jaden Daniels. There's a prop over at DK, which is his passing completions over 20.5. He finished last season, the regular season and the playoffs, with 9 straight overs to that number. He went over that number 9 straight times. Now, he only had 19 in week 1 against the Giants, but that's understandable because they just ran the ball down the Giants' throats. The Giants couldn't stop them. 220 yards on 32 carries. They averaged 6.9 yards per carry. Washington did. If you're averaging almost 7 yards per carry, you just keep running until they can stop you and they load the box, and then you pass. So I think it's a different story this weekend. Tonight, because you have Green Bay, obviously, and we saw what Green Bay did to the Detroit Lions as far as Montgomery and Gibbs. They kept them to what? I think it was 46 yards on 22 carries, pretty much shut down that running game. So we'll see what happens here if they attempt to shut down the Washington running game, and Jaden Daniels has to get out of that pocket. You could look at his rushing yards prop. You can look at his rushing plus passing yard props. But I'm going to look at his passing ones. A lot of short passes. It's similar to what Goff had to do in that game, and I think Goff went over that number as well too. I think he had 23 pass completions. So I like that one there, and you're paying again minimal juice. I don't like these props where you're laying minus 120 or more because I think they're a losing proposition long term because you've got to hit a bigger rate of them to be profitable long term. So Jaden Daniels over 20.5 pass completions.
I think that is a great way to go, Carmine, with Jaden Daniels. We know that he is a pass-first quarterback. He's a mobile quarterback, though, dual-threat quarterback for sure. But the minute he starts running out of the pocket, we also know he's still looking down that field to throw that ball. So I think that is a great way to go. Those pass completions for Jaden Daniels over 21.5. You're getting that at minus 105. I love it. You're talking quarterback. So what have you got for us for Jordan Love?
So we're going to go with Jordan Love. Now, this is a high number, but it's a high number, I think, for a reason. Jordan Love passing yards, over 240 and a half passing yards. And this, I think, has more to do with Washington last season on the road. As good as the team is at scoring points, they were allowing points. They allowed an average of, and it's right on this number, 240.3 passing yards allowed on the road last season. Love at home. I think there's a huge overreaction to week one with regards to at least the Green Bay Packers beating the Detroit Lions. They really missed, obviously the Lions really missed Ben Johnson, I think, and now that he's with the Chicago Bears. The Detroit will eventually get it together, but week one against the Pack with Micaiah Parsons making his debut with the Packers, they were hyped. They were ready to win that game. The line sits at 3.5 for the game, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But this is one of those ones where Washington can score points, and I think there's an overreaction to Green Bay and how they played in that first game. Deservedly so, they won the game, but I think Washington gives them a game tonight, and if they get ahead, it puts Love in a position where he's got to pass, and I think we're going to get over this number. So it's one of those prop plays. We split out a couple prop plays on last Monday's. I think it was last Monday's show, and it always comes down to I think the same thing is what your narrative is for the game, who is going to be on top, because that sort of dictates the way the props are going to go. And, if Washington gets out to a lead in this game, and if they get out to a lead of a couple scores, I'm not saying that is what is going to happen, it completely changes the dynamic of the game as far as play calling goes for the Green Bay Packers. And I could see Jordan Love going over that number. You look at some of his numbers from last year, and it makes you raise an eyebrow to this one, because he's a lot of games where he was in that 220 to 225 range at the end of the game, and here he is sitting at 240.5, and it hasn't moved. No one is betting the under. So minus 112 juice on this one again at DK. I'm going to take the Jordan Love over passing yards, 240.5.
You can definitely see him getting there. He's got a gunslinging arm. He can get that ball nice and deep down the field. And on one pass, he could put it over that 38.5, which I think is his longest pass on the board as well. There's Richard mentioned the love for no interceptions. He's gone his last 8 games. Not to mush him here, though, you guys, without throwing that pick. Hopefully the announcers on TV don't say it, though, Carmine. As long as the announcers don't say it, we're fine. Right? But
the good old reliable announcers mush where he hasn't missed in 42 attempts inside 45 yards, and then he double doinks it off of the uprights. God bless the ones. I'm in a few chat groups, and we have one of my friends in there, Rob, and he's like a complete mush. He's like, "Who do you like tonight?" I go, "No client play on this game at all. Not props, not game, but I have opinions on them." And I took Washington plus 3.5, and he says, "Well, it looks like I've just mushed your play," right? So we'll see what happens there. Trig talked about a couple things I want to touch on. Trig, first of all, talked about college football. When Trig gives you a game in college football, and he follows a couple of or a few of the schools close to them very closely, he's got his pulse on him. He knows what he's talking about. So he's given out a free play in that college one. I would circle it. And if you have nothing to do on a Friday night, then you sweat a game out with Trig. So like that, he left the total to me. I don't like this total. It hasn't really moved. It opened at 48.5. It's sitting at 48.5. You look at both the tickets and the money are coming in on. It looks like on the under, but the line really hasn't moved that I can see. The one thing I do like is the Washington team total. The Washington team total is at 22.5. So, you can stretch that a little further and say, well, if you like the Washington team total at 22.5, and I like Green Bay to win the game, not me, but you yourself like Green Bay to win, then this game's got to go over the total. Well, it doesn't have to go over the total. Washington team total could hit with 23 points. They could win the game 23-20, and it stays under the total. With that thought in mind, I'm sticking to the Washington team total over 22.5, and we'll see how that pans out. The only thing that one last thought, Joe.
Yeah.
The only thing that worries me is it seems like everyone likes Washington plus 3.5. And
I know. I'm not
that is
impressed by that.
never a good thing. It is
No.
never a good thing when everyone likes one side. I remember Joe Ranieri when he would produce Puck Time. If the three people on the panel all loved one side, Joe would be betting the opposite side, and he just loved to bust our chops. That is Joe Ranieri at his absolute best. But when everyone's on one side, it kind of makes you want to go to the other. It's the old Joe public versus the pros.
Oh, absolutely. And it almost makes you want to fire up. I don't know if it does for you, but for me, it makes me want to fire up the Green Bay Packers, just lay, 6.5, get that great plus money. But I don't know, Carmine. I'm with you. I think the Washington Commanders have the ability to get it done. I know they faced the Giants last week and Russell Wilson, and we saw Green Bay face the Lions, but I think this would have been a closer spread if we didn't see the Packers really dominating that last game. I want to ask you about the wide receiver market here for the Green Bay Packers, because we know Jordan Love has so many targets out there. We have Jaden Reed, we have Romeo Doubs, we have Matthew Golden. Not quite sure how that ankle is for him, but do you think they're going to have success, especially with the offensive line issues for the Green Bay Packers? I'm not sure if Tom and Banks are playing, but it looks like both of them will.
Yeah, well, that's the sort of the takeaways from week one. A few injuries, I think, to the O line for the Green Bay team. And again, I always talk about it. If you're in contests or if you're just flat betting games, with week one to week two, there is a huge overreaction to games. Teams that didn't play well and still won, you want to bet against them, or people want to bet against them, or teams that played phenomenal. I think I saw a video with Bill Krakemeyer talking about how on Monday morning after Green Bay had beaten the Detroit Lions, someone came in and put a huge bet on Green Bay to win the Super Bowl. So that to me seems like an overreaction. Yes, you beat the Detroit Lions once. You beat them on at Lambeau on home field. There's still a few teams, namely the Philadelphia Eagles, amongst others, in that conference. Beating Detroit does not mean you're going to win the Super Bowl. So there's a ton of overreactions to week one, and I think you have to take it with a grain of salt before you bet week two. You have to sort of take the opinion you had going into week one and extend it the first 2 or 3 weeks to see whether your initial thoughts were wrong and you need to readjust your power rankings, or if you stick with your numbers. If your team that lost week one comes out and has a fantastic week two and week three, then you were right coming into the season. So I think that's something that you need to look for. One final thought on the total. We've been used to the last year, I think it was, the primetime games were absolutely garbage. The last year, maybe even 2 years, with unders. The unders were cashing at a great clip if you were betting the primetime unders. Look at the 4 primetime games thus far. We had the Cowboys game that somehow stayed under the total last Thursday, despite 41 points at halftime. The Chiefs and the Chargers go over the total. The Ravens and the Bills definitely go over the total. And on Monday night, Minnesota and Chicago went over the total. So it should be 4-0 to primetime overs had that bad luck not happened in the first game with obviously with the delay, the weather delay, which kind of changed things, I think, in the second half of that game. So with the Cowboys and Eagles, but it looks to be that the primetime games thus far are all trending to overs.
Yeah, they definitely are trending to those overs, and we are seeing that offensive guard is out here. The left guard Aaron Banks, so he will not be playing. It does sound like Tom will be in the lineup. It's going to be interesting to see what they're able to do on that offensive line, because we know the Washington Commanders were so strong at breaking through on Russ. I believe they got 22 pressures of Russ's 45 step back. So we'll see what they're able to do. I've got a couple more questions for you, Carmine. I want to talk tight ends. We know the Packers did allow Sam Laporta to get that big play. Tonight, we have Zach Ertz here for the Washington Commanders. And then on the other side for the Packers, we have Tucker Kraft. If you're looking at both of these tight ends, who has a better night?
I'm going to go with Ertz, and it's only because of the thought, and this is the thought process I have. And again, it goes back to, what is your narrative going into the game? Narrative going into the game is, I think that the Green Bay Packers are going to do a much better job than the New York Giants did. I think you couldn't be any worse than what the New York Giants did in trying to stop the running game of the Washington Commanders. As I mentioned, 220 yards on 32 carries. Green Bay is going to do a much better job. They did against Detroit. So that puts Daniels in a position where he either has to scramble out of the pocket. And the thing with the Commanders is they have designed plays for Daniels to scramble out of the pocket. But even getting out of the pocket, if he's not looking downfield, or he's looking at progressions and he's looking at a second or third, it's Ertz, those 7 or 8 yard passes, and those ones add up. So it is one of the reasons why I like the completions for Jaden Daniels. And I'll take it one step further. And if he finds Ertz, you're also cashing in on that one as well too. So if it doesn't go to my narrative, then it is an ugly game. But again, these are plays that I'm putting in small plays, but they aren't client plays. I passed on the card.
Okay. I don't blame you for passing on the card. Of course, you guys open up your Odds Logic page. Carmine, is there anything that's really jumping off the board for you when we look ahead to the weekend games? Are there any lines that you think we're going to see movement that, if you like the total or if you like the side right now, jump on it before it's too late?
Yeah, a couple of games I think stand out. Like, I won't talk about one game in specific because I have a 5% play on it. But a couple of games I think that we're probably going to see the line move is Denver. It's not an overreaction to Denver last week. I think they could have played a lot better than they did. So maybe they put that ugly performance behind them. And we'll see how they take the next step forward. That line was at a pick 'em or -1. I think it comes off of that number. The other one is Houston. Houston's at 2.5, and it's one that could hit that key number of 3. So it is one where you would rather lay the 2.5 than take the 3. In this case. So those are probably 2 games that at some point somehow may make my card, but right now they're not on there.
Okay. You're up 130 units in the last 3 seasons in 4 and 5% plays in the NFL. You're absolutely crushing it. And you have a 5% play up for this weekend?
Yeah, first one, obviously, of the year. We're only 2 years in, but yes, last week there was nothing I think that I thought strong enough. I really like this game and how it shapes up. So all of my plays this season in the NFL are going to be 4% or 5%. And if I can't find one that fits the mold for either 4% or 5%, I will pass. The way I'm looking at it is not volume, but value. It's the old quantity versus quality. I'd rather get you winners than get you 6 games where you go 4-2, lose or make just a little bit after the VIG, just because you need action. So I'm going to try and pump out as many winners as I can. And yeah, 130 units since the start of the 2022 season in the NFL, including playoffs with 4% and 5% plays, which is number 1 at WagerTalk. And a best bet is a 4% play in college football on Saturday. It's a barking dog if you like barking dogs, and it's a team I think could win outright. And going back to the beginning of last season in college football, 70% with 4% plays. So we'll see if we can keep that run going.
So not only crushing it in the NFL, but also in college football. I know your plays across the board have been fantastic, Carmine. You have a weekend special as well, the Weekend Warrior, running for $49. What will that get everyone this weekend?
Yeah, so guys, that it's a special across WagerTalk for all cappers, but obviously, for me, what the 49 gets you is it'll get you every single play released on Saturday and on Sunday in NFL and in college football. Uh, just the 5% play itself is $35. The 4% college play is 25. So that's already 60 right there. 49 gets you all plays, and I will likely have one more NFL a game and one more college game. So that'll be 4 games in total this weekend.
Sounds like a moneymaker, Carmine. I want to wish you all the best in Thursday night football as well as this weekend in the NFL, in all of those college plays you have going on. Thanks so much for joining me today on Last Call.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Carmine. Okay, you guys, definitely head on over to wagertalk.com. You don't want to miss out on that deal. Plus 130 units in the NFL in the last 3 seasons. Those 4% plays absolutely cashing in college football for Carmine as well. And that weekend package, only $49. And he's going to have probably right around those 4 plays. Again, he said quality over quantity. So that's definitely something that I can get behind there. So you guys, the Weekend Warrior, you can get for any of the cappers over on WagerTalk. Go check out Adam Triggers as well. You don't want to miss out. Just $49, any 5% releases for that. So you're saving a ton of money heading on over and grabbing that. You guys, I want to talk my best bets out there tonight in this game. I'm seeing one of your comments asking who would you pick on the money line. For me, I do think the Commanders have every ability of getting the win. This is going to be a hard one. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. And I hate that I'm hearing a lot of people loving the Washington Commanders tonight plus the points. But I do think Jaden Daniels is something special out there. And while I love, you gotta love, right? I think it's going to be a harder game than they expected, especially off a game versus the Detroit Lions, where the Detroit Lions look lost. You look at their offense, Jared Goff, they just completely struggled out there. It was that big play to Sam Laporta. I actually was shocked they were able to drive down and get something done with that play. But otherwise, you guys, they had those struggles. The defense of the Green Bay Packers was all over them, and I don't think it's going to be that easy. It gives me question marks on Ben Johnson leaving this team. We know he's with Chicago now, and where Detroit is going to be offensively coming into this weekend. So it's kind of worrisome looking at your survival picks if you are circling the Detroit Lions. But back to this game here with the Green Bay Packers, I do think they went against an opponent that just looked unprepared for this week. And I do think they might have some struggles here versus the Washington Commanders. I'm looking for the Commanders to really pull it together in this game. Jaden Daniels, we know, dual threat quarterback. He is a pass first quarterback. His ability to drop back and then run it with his legs is there. I love where Carmine's going with his passing completion or his passing yards. I do think he probably is able, or no, he had the passing completions. It was Jordan Love for the passing yards. I do think he's able to go over that 21.5. I saw some of you guys jumping in those comments saying, seems like a lot of people are on that. I do like him for what he's going to do with his legs. I think he's going to be one of those quarterbacks that this season he has to use his legs a little bit more, and hopefully it doesn't get him hurt. But over the 44.5 rushing yards. Now, I know he has the running backs. I know he has every ability to pass that off to Bill, our favorite young rookie out there. But I look at Bill and I think in this matchup, we're going to see the Packers all over him. I also think Micah Parsons, who was listed questionable, he's going to play. It's his back that is bugging him. But I do think Micah Parsons will be hunting Jaden Daniels, which gives me his rushing yards over that 44.5 even stronger in my opinion, because I think he's going to have to scramble. I think he's going to have to make some adjustments on the fly out there because of Micah Parsons. We know how solid he is. Now, looking at Micah Parsons for the sack tonight, you guys, it is juicy. It's minus 136, but who doesn't want to see those sacks out there? For me, these games are all about the defense. I love, 15-13 style games where the defenses just dominate out there on the field. I guess I'm kind of weird because I know a lot of you like the big flashy plays, the Josh Allens, the Lamar Jacksons who are able to sling that ball. But we do have that in this game. We're going to see those big passes out of both of those quarterbacks. They will find success, but the defense will come. And this is probably going to be one of the best Thursday night football games of the season. The schedule makers this year definitely got it right. So I'm going to look here at this game. So I'm going to look at Jaden Daniels over his 44.5 rushing yards. I'm going to also look at the Washington Commanders plus the 3.5. I already got it at a 3 here with the Washington Commanders trends to give up that first touchdown. I'd roll the dice. If you didn't get the 3.5, I'd roll the dice to see if you're going to get a better number in this game. Live betting these games with the overreactions, I think, is a really solid way to go. So I would look there, you guys. I do think, though, this game goes under. I know you guys don't want to hear it, but I'm looking at these defenses, what we saw last week. And I think even though we're going to see those big plays, those big passes, I think we stay under the 48.5. I'm not worried about people backing that under in this line, really not moving. I'm going to take the under 48.5. I'll look at Micah Parsons for that sack. Like I said, that sack coming in at minus 136. So juicy. But you know who else I like for the sack? It is Von Miller. Von Miller here are the Washington Commanders to get to Jordan Love today. That's coming in at plus 198. You gotta love the plus money here for Von Miller. We know how strong he is. He's a hunter, just like Micah Parsons as well. And Von Miller for the Washington Commanders in the last game versus Russ, he was able to pressure him twice. Now, I know Armstrong did the majority of the work out there of putting that pressure for the Washington Commanders last week on Russell Wilson. He had 9 pressures, I believe, and 1 sack. But I think this is Von Miller time. I really do. I'm looking for him to come out nice and hard, get to Jordan Love in this one. Hopefully he doesn't hurt the Packers quarterback, because I do, like I said, love. I would look at Love for his longest pass completion. I think we're going to see an absolute bomb out of him. I think we'll see an absolute bomb out of Jaden Daniels as well. And I'm with Carmine. If you look at those tight ends, Zach Ertz versus Tucker Kraft, I do think Zach Ertz will feast in this one. We know Jaden Daniels loves to get him the ball, but I think Tucker Kraft is going to have success as well. I don't hate sprinkling on both of them for that touchdown. Now, when we look at Terry McLaurin coming out here, I do think he's going to get open on the outside. I would look at him in this one to be able to go over his receiving yards. That is a really modest number of 54.5. And I do think Terry McLaurin should be able to go over that. I look for him to get that separation. I'm very interested tonight to see what Matthew Golden's going to do out there on the field. Now, there was question marks around his ankle. I won't be shocked if he absolutely goes off in this game and has, that big long pass from Love to him, and he's able to run it in for a touchdown. We've all been waiting to see the wheels that he has in the NFL. We really didn't see it in that last game. So I'm looking for him to have success, but it's going to be a great game here, you guys. Make sure you go over to WagerTalk, check out what these handicappers have for sale. You don't want to miss out on that Weekend Warrior deal as well. It's just $49, you guys, and you're going to get whichever capper you pick. You saw 2 great ones here today. You're just going to get their packages for the weekend for $49. So you're going to be saving some money. I'm going to be here live on Saturday covering for Kelly. We've got a great lineup of guests, so you don't want to miss out on that. That is at 11 a.m. Eastern here on Last Call. As I start to lose my voice, sorry about that, you guys, but I do think it's going to be a fun Saturday show. We're going to be talking college football, all the bets that you want to get in before these games kick off. Now, again, we're looking at Adam Trigger saying, wait for that Syracuse line to go even higher and come back in on the other side. He's not buying that Syracuse is going to cover all those points, but he's waiting for the money to come in on Syracuse before betting Colgate. And like Carm said, if Adam's throwing that out, you definitely want to make sure you get on that. We did hear Aaron Banks questionable tonight here, or out tonight for the Green Bay Packers. So there are those offensive line issues tonight. So I do think we'll see the defense feast. And if you like those trends, Matt LaFleur in prime time against the spread, man, it's a hard one taking the Washington Commanders for me with this trend, but 21-11 and one, you guys. So thank you so much for joining me here on the Last Call. Again, I will see you Saturday, but otherwise you can catch me here on Last Call Monday night football and Thursday night football kicking off before kickoff at 7 p.m. Eastern. So you get all of your best bets. Hit that like, hit that retweet button, and hit that subscribe button. You guys, until then, stay hot. Let's make some freaking money. I'll see you Saturday.